Where has TNA gone wrong? Well, I think starting off, we've made it clear that not being live certain weeks was a big mistake. Some people in the chat room saying the same, and I think that was where it all started to go wrong. If you did know it was live every week, you'd be there, you'd want to see it, and maybe now and again you'd switch off Raw and go, okay, I'll watch that another day. But like I say, every time I sort of thought, oh, TNA is live tonight, in fact, it wasn't. I could tell straight away it was a recording, but that I think would be point one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the big mistake was not being live every Monday night, and none of us, I don't know about everybody who's watching right now, but definitely I know for a fact the two of us, we don't want to know about, like what happened on the second night's tapings when one night is live and then they tape on a Tuesday night and they show it on Monday, because these spoilers pop up on the net, and then as much as you try to avoid stuff, you find out that a title has changed, or somebody's dropped a strap, or somebody's debuted, or somebody's, it's just not fun really. And that's why Raw has such a huge advantage, because it is live every Monday. It has been for how many years at this stage? 15 plus. And it's what I think it's one thing that's really built WWE from even the smaller venue back in the early 90s right up to these huge arenas right now. And I mean, it's such a huge product. But for TNA to go back to Thursday, I think, is a good move, because they won't have much competition in the view in the way of wrestling, should I say. And you can't compete with Raw at that level right now, but if they build a solid Thursday night, they'll get those ratings back up there, I think, solidly up in the tubes.
Yeah, I think so. It's time to go back home. They had 0.5 and 0.6 ratings, and they blamed Shawn Michaels' retirement. They blamed whatever was happening on Raw on a given week, and that was always going to be a problem. That's the second problem I think TNA had, was that Raw was going to be there. It's the most obvious one of all, but you're just not going to destroy an audience built up, as you say, for 15 plus years. It's not going to happen. Another reason why I think this TNA Monday night war, as people called it, a lot of people said it wasn't a war at all, because the ratings were so different for the better of WWE. But I think at the beginning we all noticed how suddenly we had Val Venus, we had Mr. Anderson, we had Bubba the Love Sponge, we had the Nasty Boys, we had Hulk Hogan, we had Eric Bischoff, and the list goes on. But all of a sudden our guys disappeared off screen. Some of the guys who we were so used to seeing on TNA had to take a back seat, and just a few weeks previous they had that lecture from Dixie Carter. I mean, a guy like Christopher Daniels obviously decided, let's get the hell out of this deal. But as I say, Christopher Daniels' status still a bit unknown. But as I say, the guys who were taken off TV, that was again, I think, the next problem. At least now a bit of a redress on that balance. To be honest with you, I think what they're trying to do now is change it back to what it was, because Hogan is probably planning to get the hell out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're second guessing. And obviously you got to think how Hogan feels about it. He went in all guns blazing, and he was going to do his best to take Vince down and show him that you can't mess with Hulkamania. But again, it just goes to show what WWE is, and people can knock it for being safe and knock it for being PG, but they're trouncing TNA, and there's no fear of them ever losing in a ratings battle anytime soon. TNA going forward, I'm sure they've learned from their mistakes, and I think if they go back a year and a half ago and start watching old impacts and what worked and what was making ratings, and they can put it back to a good Thursday night, I think.
Yeah, they can do a lot on Thursday night. They had an audience there. I hope the audience hasn't disappeared. I don't think so. I know it's a loyal and dedicated following for TNA Impact. Guys don't just decide, right, I'm finished, because it has always been almost like a cult following. Let's be honest, it's easier to follow WWE. You can see it everywhere, and there's lots of programs. For a while now, TNA has been slightly under the radar. Certainly in the US, it's not getting the type of ratings that Raw draws. But yes, TNA has made some mistakes. They did some right things. I can't say they didn't. Like you say, the four-sided ring was a big change, and the star power in general went up, and we're seeing pushes for guys like the Pope, D'Angelo, De Niro, and Mr. Anderson, and that is worth its weight in gold, I think, because I was disappointed when both of those guys left the WWE on such a bad note. So I think that wraps up our podcast stuff. And indeed, we're still live here on Justin. This is Wrestle Dope, the wrestling